Imagine designing an aircraft so advanced, so carefully put together that it uses the exact same high-end components found in leading Western jets, Airbus A320 level systems, engines from General Electric and Safran, Honeywell Avionics, Rockwell Collins radar. On paper, it checks every major requirement. Technically, it should be cleared for global service, but it's not. This is the odd, frustrating situation surrounding China's C919, a jet built to rival Airbus and Boeing, yet still unable to fly internationally. Despite relying on internationally certified systems and spending years aligning with global aviation standards, the C919 has hit a major obstacle. The European Union Aviation Safety Agency, EASA, has postponed its type certification, the crucial approval needed for international operations. Originally expected much sooner, the process may now face another 3 to 6 years of delay. This wasn't a minor setback. It made global headlines. Some commentators even mocked the aircraft, questioning whether it has any real future. But beneath the jokes lies a deeper question. Who decides which planes are allowed into the global sky? Because this issue isn't about radar, engines, or manuals. It's about power. Who has it, who keeps it, and who gets to challenge the world's two dominant manufacturers, Airbus and Boeing. So why is a jet loaded with Western-approved hardware being held back? And what does this delay reveal about the future of global aviation? This isn't just the story of one aircraft. It's a window into a much larger geopolitical contest, one that may redefine who rules the skies. China saw this coming. From the earliest stages of the C919 program, it understood that building a jet wasn't enough. Without international certification, it could never threaten Airbus or Boeing. So China played by the global rulebook. Instead of reinventing every component, COMAC built the C919 around proven, globally used parts. LEAP 1C engines from GE and Safran, the same engines powering the Airbus A320neo, already approved by FAA and EASA. Honeywell flight controls, Rockwell Collins radar, Parker Hannifin fuel systems, Michelin tires. In other words, the C919 is assembled from brand-name Western technology that already flies daily in the skies of Europe and the United States. And it didn't stop with hardware. China signed a bilateral aviation safety agreement with the EU in 2019, creating a formal pathway toward mutual certification. China checked every technical box, every diplomatic box, and yet EASA is now signaling that the plane may still require up to 6 more years of review. Commercial aviation has effectively been a two-player industry for decades. Airbus and Boeing dominate nearly the entire global market. Most people who fly today board a jet built by one of these two behemoths. That's exactly what makes the C919 so disruptive. It isn't some small regional aircraft. The C919 was engineered to compete directly with the Airbus A320 and Boeing 737, the most widely used short and medium-haul jets on Earth. If the C919 grabs even a small slice of that market, it begins chipping away at one of the most profitable duopolies in modern business. That's why the certification delay raises eyebrows. Officially, EASA says it's about safety and system verification, but the closer you look, the more it resembles a strategic slowdown designed to protect market share. Because once certified, the C919 isn't just a Chinese export. It becomes a third option in a market long fenced off from competition. Airlines, especially in developing regions, would suddenly have a cheaper, equally capable alternative, forcing Airbus and Boeing to cut prices, improve terms, and rethink their decades-long dominance. Picture it this way. Two chefs have controlled the global restaurant scene for years. A third chef arrives using the exact same ingredients, same hygiene, same equipment. But the food inspector says, "Come back in 5 more years." Eventually it stops looking like safety and starts to look like protectionism. The C919 isn't just an airplane. It's a challenge to how the aviation world has been structured for generations. Its delay isn't merely about paperwork. It's about economic power, technological independence, and whether global systems are truly neutral or quietly political. If China followed every rule and still can't get certification, what message does that send to other nations trying to enter advanced industries? And what happens when geopolitics becomes the ultimate gatekeeper of innovation? For Airbus and Boeing, every additional year the C919 is grounded is another year of breathing space. But while Western regulators argue and postpone, China isn't standing still. Even without European approval, China already has a massive launchpad, both literally and economically, to get the C919 airborne. Some critics joke that the plane has no real customers. The reality is far more strategic. China is the second largest aviation market on Earth, and according to the International Air Transport Association, will become #1 by 2042. The country will require over 9,000 new aircraft in the next 2 decades, nearly a quarter of global demand, which means even if the C919 never touches down in Paris or New York, it doesn't need to. China's domestic market alone is large enough to keep COMAC's production lines busy for decades, and the C919 is already fully certified by China's own regulator, the Civil Aviation Administration of China, meaning COMAC can deploy it nationwide without a single foreign approval. China Eastern Airlines has already received its first units and begun operating commercial C919 flights. Every successful takeoff strengthens public trust and builds the aircraft's performance record. And the interest isn't limited to China. Nations like Malaysia, Indonesia, and Vietnam, all rapidly expanding aviation markets, are taking a serious look at the C919. Some of them are even exploring direct bilateral certification agreements with China, allowing them to sidestep Western regulators entirely. The result is a steadily growing regional aviation network centered around China, one where Western regulatory influence matters far less. So while critics laugh, China's aviation strategy is quietly moving forward. The C919 may be barred from a few Western runways, but it's fully cleared to fly across thousands of others, shifting the balance of power in global aviation. Here's the twist. While Europe delays approval of China's jet, its own aviation champion, Airbus, is becoming increasingly dependent on China to remain on top. Since 2019, Airbus has consistently outdelivered Boeing worldwide. A major reason? China. More than 2,200 Airbus aircraft operate in Chinese skies. That's over half of China's commercial fleet, making China Airbus's single biggest market. And the relationship goes much deeper than purchasing planes. Airbus runs 6 joint ventures inside China, covering everything from parts manufacturing to final assembly. In Tianjin, Airbus's Chinese assembly line can produce up to 6 aircraft a month, making it an essential part of the company's global supply chain. Which raises a serious question. Can Europe afford to stall C919 certification indefinitely without risking backlash? Beijing doesn't have to issue threats. It can simply approve more COMAC jets or slow down Airbus orders, quietly steering domestic demand toward its own manufacturers. That's not political messaging, that's market gravity. Europe may block China's jet from flying west, but China has the power to stall Airbus's expansion in the east. It's a fragile balance, and it won't last forever. If this sounds familiar, that's because it is. This isn't the first time China's attempt to integrate into a Western-led system was reversed, just as it started achieving parity. In 2014, China and the European Space Agency announced joint missions, astronaut exchanges, and possible future space station collaboration. European astronauts even trained in China. But by 2023, ESA quietly stepped back, citing political pressure. The cooperation ended. Earlier, in the 2000s, China tried joining Europe's Galileo satellite program. It was welcomed at first, then pushed aside after U.S. lobbying. With real access denied, China built its own system, Beidou, which now serves over 100 countries. The pattern is clear. When China plays by the rules but gets close to equal footing, shared projects turn into exclusion. And now, with the C919, we may be witnessing that pattern repeat. So how will China respond this time? Not with outrage, not with public threats, but with a clear, long-term plan. First, reduce dependence on foreign engines. The C919 currently uses LEAP-1C engines from GE and Safran, but Comac is already developing the CJ1000A with the Aero Engine Corporation of China. Once that engine is ready, China won't need Western propulsion or Western approvals at all. Second, leverage its huge domestic market. China doesn't need trade conflict. It can simply adjust purchasing strategies, ordering more C919s, fewer Airbuses, and link market access to fair treatment. Third, build aviation partnerships beyond the West. Through the Belt and Road Initiative, China has signed aviation cooperation deals with many countries. Some are now accepting Chinese aircraft certifications directly, bypassing ESA and the FAA altogether. Over time, this could create a dual-track global aviation system, one led by the West and another built around China and its partners. And finally, China will play the long game. It will keep improving the C919, enhancing safety, lowering costs, and proving the jet's reliability domestically and regionally. The goal isn't just approval, it's credibility. Just as Huawei adapted to chip sanctions and Beidou replaced foreign satellite networks, the C919 could ultimately succeed through persistence rather than confrontation. The delay may have slowed China's jet in the short term, but in the long term it may accelerate China's aerospace independence. The C919 is no longer just a commercial aircraft. It's a strategic signal, proof that China isn't waiting for someone else to open the door. It's building its own runway. If you enjoyed this analysis, remember to like the video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more deep dives into the global shifts shaping our future. Until next time, stay sharp, stay curious, and stay tuned.